All right, what is going on, Ravens Block? And welcome back here again to another episode of the Ravens Way podcast. Joining me, as always, is Voss. Voss, how we doing? How we doing this wonderful Thursday afternoon? Nice weather out today. Very nice weather.
Feeling great, bro. Feeling great. FSU's in line to go to the playoffs. Obviously, the Ravens are top of the chart of DVOA, looking like a real contender. Two big matchups coming up, chance to really separate themselves from the rest of the AFC North. So, great time of year. I'm feeling great. How about you?
I'm feeling really good. I'm pumped. The Ravens are flying with just amazing colors. All the colors you can think of. They are just destroying these non-conference teams as the weeks go by. And to your point, two big games coming up, two divisional games. These are basically, if you win these two, the division race in terms of a record is kind of over. It is kind of over. I mean, like as long as you don't completely fall off the end of the season, the division race is kind of over. So the Ravens control their destiny.
Yeah.
And obviously we'll get into it here on the breakdowns, but I'm excited. It's a good time to be a Ravens fan. It really is.
It feels like it's all coming together, right? They have the talent, they have the right players and the right pieces. We've been on that since training camp, and but what's really impressed me is the coordinators. I feel like they're just out coaching other teams on a weekly basis now. The combination of Monken and McDonald really working out well. And on that note, let's take a look back at week 9. Yori, give me takeaway on defense, takeaway on offense from that ass whipping that they gave the Seahawks.
Yeah, so I'll start defensively. Seattle, and coming into the game, obviously last week I did pick. I did say that since I was going to the game, the Ravens were going to win because I am undefeated, and Lamar Jackson fully played out home games since he became the starter. So that is a true stat. And as
You
soon
hear
as
that, Ravens block? We got to do a GoFundMe for Yuri to keep it going.
I'm being so serious. That is a true stat. I've every
That's
home
awesome.
game I've been to. Yeah, so maybe it's luck, maybe it's whatever. But defensively, I thought that maybe Seattle could have challenged us better with the wide receivers that they had and the two healthy stable of bags. But Mike McDonald just went out there, and it's funny because I was listening to Pete Carroll on the. It's so weird, like how other franchises work. Like you never hear John Harbaugh on every Monday on a show, like talking about the loss. But Pete Carroll was on this, local Seattle show, and he was talking about how defensively, they were just so confused. Like the offense just was so confused, and that's what Mike McDonald really has been doing to these some of these offenses going through the weeks. Is they're just confusing them. You don't know where the pressure is coming from. They can get home with 4, which is very surprising. I thought that was maybe a concern. Maybe they needed a little bit more boost at the edge position. Nope, they're getting home with 4 just fine. So defensively for the game, I just think that the Ravens they put a lid on them, and not only do that, I mean they let up maybe one explosive play, 2 explosive plays, the one to DK over the middle, and then maybe
there was one.
the
one down the sideline. And then there was one to lock it on the first drive. Other than that, they suffocated them. They really absolutely suffocated them. I mean, of the last 6 first downs in a game, I feel like that really says it all. That's just unbelievable. And this was a team that we had pegged. I had pegged this one as a potential L. I have a prop for Seattle to win the West, NFC West. It was a very good team. And, the Ravens just took it to them. It's, got a nice little home stretch here. You're reaping the benefits of some home field advantage. I'll flip it over to the offensive side. And, what else can you really say besides this was the Keaton Mitchell breakout game? And Lamar just kind of orchestrating things like a conductor of a orchestra with all the pieces. He's not he has what are the different, like the Winwoods and the bass and the brass. I don't know. I wasn't really into instruments too much. But anyway, maybe that's not the best metaphor. Again, I'm just really pleased with the play calling, the performance of putting the players in position to succeed on both sides of the ball. And Keaton Mitchell, I think he's going to be a huge X factor going forward.
Definitely. Like you said, Keaton Mitchell breakout game. So, and Justice Hill has done a good job. Gus Edwards has done a good job, but the Ravens had a someone who can really get skinny in those inside zone gaps like Keaton Mitchell can. Because Keaton Mitchell, he's not the biggest guy. Gus is more of a gap runner. You want to give him an open hole. You don't want him to pick a hole. Justice Hill can do it, but at times it's like it doesn't look the smoothest. But with Keaton Mitchell, it looks really smooth. He really knows how to find those holes, and once he hits the holes, he explodes through them. So great game from him. Good to see. And then the only other thing I could add is Rashad Bateman continues to look healthier as the weeks go on and more explosive as time goes on. Odell Beckham, say what you want about him as the outside receiver. He's still doing the smart things as a receiver does. He's still flashing hands. He's still quote unquote, and this was something I alluded to. The Manning cast was talking about getting friendly to the quarterback, meaning driving yourself back towards where the quarterback and they can see your hands. You throw up the diamond, and he did that a couple times during the game. Odell worked his way back to the ball, and of course he ended up catching that touchdown from Huntley. So overall, the offense is working.
On that note of Odell, I mean, they're using him more in the slot this last game. Gordon from PFF did charting. But, yeah, I think that's an effective thing. When you look at this team, a lot of people around the league are now saying they're the most complete, they're the most balanced, they can do everything. They can stop the run, they can stop the pass, they can run the ball using multiple different concepts, and they can pass the ball. We haven't seen them play chase points yet. We haven't seen them chase points. And I do think that's the sixth year that hopefully we'll be able to hit in the postseason and really just get those perimeter receivers clicking, Bateman in particular. But I'm not necessarily sure this is the week to do it against Cleveland. We'll come back to that in a later segment. Any other news items you want to touch on? I was a little bit intrigued by the JPP wants to join a practice squad tidbit.
Yeah. The only other thing I guess we could touch on was the trade deadline. Apparently, the Ravens were in on Chase Young to the end. So I guess my question to you is, would you trade a third-round pick knowing that most likely you're going to get decent compensation in free agency for comp picks or whatever? Would you have given up a third-round pick for Chase Young?
Well, my honest response is it depends what position they would use that third-round pick on. If it's going to be used on an inside linebacker, I would rather give it up for Chase Young. If they're going to use it on a playmaker or a lockdown corner or somebody, yeah, for a third, I would have given it up for Young because you're going to get it back. But I would go get JPP at this point. Tavius Robinson doing pretty good work setting the edge. They kind of have it's almost like a excuse me, almost like a platoon system where you have your run defenders with Malik and Tavius, and then you have your pass rushers with Van Noy and Clowney the last couple of weeks. The same can be set up on the D-line too, with Pierce and Matabike versus Washington and Travis Jones. Anyway, I think JPP could be an upgrade over Tavius. Tavius, there was a couple of charts going around this week. He's one of the worst pass rush win rates or pressure percentage, whatever you want to deem it, in the league. So, you got Sue waiting in the wings. You got JPP waiting in the wings. If you need to get somebody, I do think the defensive line improvement has been a major catalyst for this defensive renaissance under McDonald this season. You got to keep that D-line fresh going forward.
Definitely, I would agree. It's interesting between the two for Sue and JPP, which one you'd want. Do you want to keep Matabike more fresh, or do you want to keep the edge rotation more fresh? And JPP can still slide inside. So I think JPP, he played in the system before, and he's a little bit younger, so maybe you think there's a little more quote-unquote juice left. But the age is I think they're 1 or 2 years apart between him and Sue. So, I mean,
for the P squad, you're just talking about you're not really adding any, just a little bit of a is he a better pass rusher than Tavius Robinson? I think so. Is he an equally adept edge setter as Tavius Robinson? I think so also. So I think that would be something worth doing.
Yeah, I think it depends on what happens with Ojabo and Bowser. Are those guys coming back or what? Because if Bowser's coming back relatively soon, then I think that I think that that's the pass rush, quote unquote, juice that say we would be looking for.
Yeah.
Ojabo, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Those are two very confusing situations, but
To put a bow on it, it's a really good place to be where you're sitting at the top of NFL power rankings across the landscape, and you're talking about contingency plans in the defensive front. So, instead of being like, oh, why didn't they get that? Why didn't they sign, Clowney and Van Noy, and the pass rush is a major weakness and blah, 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 and we're losing games because of it. Without further ado, let's jump onto Yuri's All-22 film review if you're ready, bud.
yeah.
So week 9. And appreciate you putting this together for us every week to see. And I noticed this week you highlighted, mostly the huge plays of the game.
Yeah. It was a good week. It was a good week to watch film. A lot of good things happened. So we'll start off here with Odell Beckham. Odell Beckham scoring his first touchdown, in 2 years, and his first touchdown as a Raven. Not really a lot of analysis to go on here besides that Odell kind of hits him with a basketball move at the top of the route. The little hezzy inside, split outside move. And then it was funny because in the Lamar Wired, in the Ravens Wired, Lamar was like, "You were holding that ball like you didn't want to drop it," and you could tell there, like, he kind of held it out, like he really was. He was getting those big mitts that he has right around that ball. So, it was garbage time, but I was at the stadium here for this one. I didn't leave at this point just yet. It was a nice eruption from the crowd. So good to see.
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny that they still have Odell chasing that touchdown. I guess it was his birthday with the backup QB, but yeah, it's good to see him involved. I think as much as he may not be living up to his contract with his production, I think they may have been able to get some of the other players cheaper because the Ravens were perceived as a contender because he was on the team.
For sure. So here's Keith Mitchell's. It wasn't the touchdown run, but this was the second run. I think this one went for a lot more yards.
60. This was the 60-yard. Yep.
Yeah, it was 60 versus 20, but a lot of moving
40,
parts here.
40 was
first. Yeah, a lot of moving parts here. The first one to highlight is Tyler Linderbaum, just absolutely blowing people. Like, there you go, just blows two people down. When he first came out of his stance, he knocks another person down. So starting to see him really open up and be able to do those things like Jason Kelce does for the Eagles in those zone concepts, getting downfield. And that's something, going back to the draft, we always knew that he was going to be an elite zone run blocker off the gate. And here he is just showing it, that he's out there and he's making plays. And this is, I'd be remiss to say I'm glad that we picked him. I really am. He's really starting to put it together. And then obviously Keaton Mitchell, just not the biggest guy, but just kind of weirdly breaks a lot of tackles. He's definitely a very lower center of gravity runner.
Yes, that's where I was going with the Darren Sproles comment. Low center of gravity, he's pretty thick. He broke 8 tackles on 9 carries or something ridiculous like that. Definitely a little vindication for those that did not want to add a running back at the trade deadline. Seeing Mitchell break out in the very next game after. Yeah, Linderbaum, very solid player. Improved his pass blocking this year. Obviously, this is what he was drafted to do. The one thing that I think I was concerned about more than anything was short yardage. And they're doing better than that this year, even with an undersized center. So I'll got to give some credit there if I can get it to go to the next one.
Yeah, definitely. Also on the Linderbaum thing, for me, the question never was he a good player or not? It was just, do you take him at 14, or do you do what they did and come back into the first round and take him? And thankfully, I was kind of against them at 14 just because I feel like there may have been better talents available, like a Kyle Hamilton, like a Jermaine Johnson, and it
Sure.
ended up working out in the end. So, we'll leave it in the past. But once
Well,
again,
it's not the story's not fully written yet. We'll see how it goes. You draft a guy like that because you expect him to re-sign a pretty good deal and he's going to be your long-term center. So yeah, I it's hard to go wrong investing in the trenches. I'll say that.
that's a question for me in 2027. We're a little early on that one.
All right, fair enough.
But here, once again, highlighting Keaton Mitchell just being faster than everybody else in the field. John Simpson with a massive pancake. Shout out to the 4 other people on Twitter that are John Simpson truthers like myself. And I guess, we're talking about vindication of not getting a running back. Well, I'm going to take a little bit of vindication for not trading for a left guard because I kept saying,
there you go.
Fine. He's fine. If your worst, quote unquote, worst offensive lineman is out there pancaking people, and you have a former defensive end for the Eagles out there shouting him out, I think you're fine. I think you're okay. But the only part of this play that I didn't like was Ronnie Stanley just getting really pushed. And if the defensive player put maybe a little more effort, this play may have not happened.
Well, give Ronnie credit where it's due. A lot of good blocking in space from Ronnie. Struggled a little bit in pass pro, I thought. But McCary was really the one that had a great game, and they may be getting even stronger because Moses is practicing again this week. Let's move on. I just wanted to get that in before we move on to some defensive plays here. We got a sack party upcoming.
Yeah. This is the same play. That's all right, we can watch it. Don't worry. Eventually, this will all be one nice long clip.
I'm trying to use like a different button, a different way to do it to navigate this time. It's still not working great.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Odafe Owe, and there was a chart out earlier, and he is in that tier of like the A tier, like the he's according to the chart, he's ahead of a lot of the guys who were in his class, like Greg Rousseau and Jalen Phillips, in terms of how he's quote unquote graded. But I feel like any chance I get an Odafe Owe highlight or opportunity, I put it in our film reviews, because I just feel like with guys like that are high testers, you can't bail on them the first 2 years because those guys really take a little more time to sizzle. And shout out to Coach Chuck Smith, who shout out to Jason as well, who's on our show and said that his signature move was that spin move that he just ripped off there. And I even put out a screenshot earlier. And if you want to know who the good edge rushers are in this league, watch how the protection of the offensive line is shaded to them, and watch if they're getting chipped or not. And I put out a screenshot earlier. They had 3 people on Odafe Owe trying to stop him. That is you will
respect.
Yeah, like Myles Garrett gets doubled. Nick Bosa gets doubled. All the top edge rushers get doubled. And I'm not saying always at that level, but I am saying that he is still even last year when there was 3 edge rushers on the roster who was getting doubled. It was Owe because he's a good player and it's taken a while. And I just hope that the numbers come for him so he can get a little more respect.
Yeah, I've been on the Owe train too. I've never doubted him too much. It's just they're playing great team defense here. You can see Clowney compressing the pocket from the opposite side, and I think Owe's in store for a big second half, but we'll see how it shakes out. And here's Kyle Van Noy.
My hot take is he'll win us a game with a game.
Owe?
Yeah.
Owe? Yeah. He did his rookie year. He sold me then. That's the only time they beat in KC was because of him. That's the only time they beat KC since Lamar and Mahomes have met each other. Was because of Owe.
Yeah.
That's enough for me to not lose faith in the guy.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe he does it Thursday against Orlando Brown, like he did that one game against KC. Anyway, Kyle Van Noy. So back-to-back plays, just absolutely crushes Geno Smith on that one. Geno Smith got, that had to not feel good coming in off the stunt. And then the very next play, this is literally the very next play, he strip sacks Geno Smith. And what a really great signing to have in the middle of the middle of September, to bring in someone who comes off and he gives you 5 sacks, which was what he had the past couple of years. He had 5 sacks a season. Now he has 5 sacks already for us. So he's playing great. The whole defense is playing great. Mike McDonald really has these guys cinched in, and I'm maybe this is a hot take. I do have another one for Todd Monken, and we'll get to that after we're through our film review here. But I'm really starting to think that, and maybe this is an overreaction, maybe it's me being biased, but I think that Mike McDonald is leading a renaissance on the defense of how to blitz but not forgive coverage, how to sim pressure without basically leaving. Anytime you think about blitzing, you have to have the quote unquote replace. There has to be someone that fills that in the secondary. If you blitz a linebacker, you need a safety to come down and fill that spot if you don't want that area of the field to be compromised. And Mike McDonald just really, week in and week out, and it's kind of like the early 2000s Bill Belichick, and even into the 2010s, the quote unquote amoeba defense. The defense. Go ahead.
06 Ravens is maybe the most underrated defense of all time, and that was Rex Ryan. He ran the 46, but he would fill and replace. It was kind of like that amoeba, just predator look, even more, just total 8 guys across the line with 1 deep safety, that kind of crazy stuff. Yeah, it's beautiful. McDonald is, I think you're right. I thought you made a good point as far as Staley and some of these guys, Fangio, but McDonald took it to the next level, kind of playing pattern match core, tight cover quarters.
Exactly. So many people, and it bothers me, so many people are running soft quarters. It's like why aren't? I mean, I get you do have to have good players. It's because half the time hard quarters will turn into cover 2. It'll turn into cover 2, but it's so frustrating to watch teams go out here and run this soft off coverage quarters and just let all these plays happen underneath. And then by the time the game's done, you've let up 370 yards passing because you're just letting everything happen underneath. And Mike McDonald doesn't do that. He has his hard, aggressive styled quarters, and it doesn't, and it's aggressive enough to the point while it's also not forgiving. It's not giving up big plays. The Ravens are top 2 in explosive plays allowed on defense. Yes. They're not letting up explosive plays. They've let up 9 touchdowns in the season. And it's a credit to him, as well as defense is talented, but Mike McDonald there will be teams copying this. Someone else next year will be running a harder quarter. I'm being so serious. I don't think there's any other team that I've seen, and we've skipped it through. I think we're at 16 teams now we've played so far, and we're just now circling back to the double overs. But I don't think I've seen anybody else run as many the hard quarters concept as he does, and I really do think it's a renaissance defensively, and I'm just glad to be a part of it now.
You gotta have good safeties to do it. You gotta.
You do.
You gotta have good safeties, or else you're in trouble. So that's. I do it. I mean, I do think he is redefining the way defense can be played in some ways. It remains to be seen. Will some roster attrition chip away at that over in the offseason? That's a question for the offseason. Quick question for you. You can only re-sign one, same cost. KVN or Clowney?
Clowney.
I'm in agreement. All right, let's get to your boy here, because I know you're excited for this one.
Yeah, so I was once again at the stadium having a couple of those good old beverages, and Charlie Kolar, special team, we're talking about, this is we have a special teams head coach. Reward the man for making this tackle because he watching him, and there was a what game was it? It might have been the Lions game. It might have been the Lions game. Maybe he's just good against NFC teams and like that's his niche. Like he's only gonna make plays against NFC teams. But comes down the field.
They don't have
Practice.
the they don't have the scouting report on him. That's the thing. They only play him once every 3 years. They don't know what Kolar is capable of. That's what's going on.
Exactly, and he goes down the field. He fills his lane. He makes a tackle. He made a tackle against the Lions as well. And I just it's tough because he's got Andrews in front of him. I just want one catch. I just want to see one red zone target. That's all I want. That's all I want. But
yeah, to his credit, I track I do the snap counts article for Baltimore Beatdown every Monday. The last 2 weeks in a row, last 3 weeks really, he's been, his snap counts are going up. He's contending with Likely, and even though Likely had his best game in a while last week, he still wasn't far off. So that's good to see. He's building a role, and we'll see where it goes. On to the Cleveland Browns depth chart. What's sticking on the offensive side of the ball, obviously, is they're down their 2 starting tackles. What was once the best offensive line in the league a couple of years ago, I may still be the highest paid or one of the highest paid. Down 2 guys. They also don't have DPJ, so they're not 11 personnel. Doesn't necessarily scare you either. What else you see on this depth chart?
Amari Cooper is still good at football.
Yes, he is.
He's a really good receiver. Of course, Cedric Tillman I liked coming out. James Prochet will get snaps Sunday.
I hope so. Pick 6 Prochet.
I hope Arthur Mollett just does unthinkable things. But anyway,
that's a guy I want to extend.
Huh?
On another topic, though, but that's a guy I'd like to extend is Mollett.
I wouldn't mind that. But the biggest thing to me is James Hudson at left tackle. They're going to switch that, and they're going to put DeJuan Jones apparently at left tackle, and then Hudson at right. So that's, you talk about offensive linemen switching spots. It's not as easy. A lot of them say it's like wiping with the other hand. It does not feel the same. And these pass rushers that we have, and also Justin Madubuike has like quietly owned Wyatt Teller for a while. So the Ravens defensive line can really get a hold of this Browns team and stop them from running the whole outside zone and setting up the play action. And we could talk about and the only other thing I'll add is, since there isn't any film, Deshaun Watson looked okay. He didn't look. I mean, he was still like with the shoulder injury he has. Like he was still pushing the ball downfield. He was still.
His deep shots look good. I thought his deep shots looked good.
Yeah.
I will give him credit for that. I mean, definitely better than a greater challenge than PJ Walker.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to cut you off.
Okay.
If you wanted to land that point.
But I forgot it. All I wanted to say was he looked okay. Deshaun Watson looked. I won't say he's back, but he looked okay.
Yeah, and here's the defensive. Why can't I get this to expand? It's like a comedy show over here. They don't have a whole lot of weaknesses on defense. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, they're stout up front. Obviously, Garrett is a beast. I got some keys to the game coming up. We'll come back to that, but a lot of speed at the second level, and then a really talented secondary. I mean, their secondary and the Ravens secondary are maybe the 2 most talented in the NFL, and maybe the reason why they are the 2 best defenses in the NFL.
Definitely. It's very good defense. It is a legit defense. I don't think it's a product of playing weak opponents. It's a very talented defense. Like we said, they're aggressive in the right sense. And you circle number 99 or 95, at all times, Myles Garrett. You do not want him to wreck the day because he can. So maybe offensively, park a tight end with whatever side he's on. Maybe put Ricard out there, and then I think Greg Newsome was on the on the injury report today, and he may or may not play this Sunday. That's up in the air. Don't want to speak on something that I'm not 1,000% sure about, but like you said, good defense. Very, very good defense.
Yeah, Grant Delpit's having a breakout year. A guy I really liked. I actually preferred him to PQ when they were both picked. Same school, actually. But I think I probably still prefer him to PQ, but don't tell anybody. Yeah, I mean, they have a really stout defense. As I stop sharing the screen here, I got a couple keys to the game. You got to get after Cleveland's offensive tackles. Their interior O line is one of the best in the game still. So I don't know if McDonald's going to necessarily be able to rely on confusion and deception as much, attacking them with stunts. Don't let Amari Cooper get deep. I mean, those are like really the two things I have as far as the defensive side of the ball before we go to the offense.
Yeah, my I guess my take would be don't let them establish outside zone. Like don't let the they're very weak at tackle currently. DeJuan Jones is a nice player, but don't let them get outside of your containment that you have. That I think that's a pretty easy way to shut down their plan and have them to go into something else.
They're still running the ball a great amount. But first of all, they're first in pass D DVOA, so they're not and they're second in pass rush percentage. So this is the battle of the two best defenses in the league. The other side of the ball, and I think you're going to have to shut down Cleveland's run, but I think they're capable of doing that. None of these guys really scare me without their tackles, and they are running a little bit more inside zone lately. So, yeah, you got to hold the edge. I think it may be a Malik Harrison game. On the other side of the ball, flipping it over, Garrett's a problem. He leads the league in forced fumbles, and Lamar leads the league with 6 fumbles on the year. So you're going to have to give Chip help to him. Ball security is going to be paramount. And I don't see a whole lot of good matchups in the passing game, to be honest. I think it's probably going to be a game where you want to probably get some explosive runs and get manageable down at distances with the run game. That's probably going to be the key. The Ravens lead the league in explosive runs. I think it's going to be a smash mouth game. I'll give you my score prediction in a minute, but I don't think this is going to be an establish a pass kind of game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The only thing I would say is Mark Andrews is always dominating the Browns. He always maybe for a little bit later during the betting segment, but I think Mark Andrews might have himself a nice day. I think that's important.
So I do think this is going to be a Lamar explosive runs, keeping Mitchell explosive runs, Gus with some battering ram runs. I think it's going to be a run the ball, stop the run, control field position, lead on their kicking game. Tucker, I could see quite a 3 or 4 40-yard field goal attempts in this game from the Ravens. So Ravens are favored by 6.5. The total is 38. My score prediction is the Ravens 16, Cleveland Browns 9. I picked the Browns to defeat the Ravens the first game. That was before we knew Watson hurt his shoulder. I do think this is the most talented team the Ravens have faced so far in the season, even without tremendous receivers. If you could take away Cooper, Moore, and Njoku don't scare me too much. But they have a good O-line, and they have a really, really good defense. So I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair, 16-9.
I'm going to go ahead and go with 22 to 15. I think it's just going to be a nasty game, but the Ravens cover. The Ravens cover 6.5.
Yeah, I have them covering as well by 1 point. Props. I mean, it's they don't have the defensive props out yet. At least when I checked this earlier this afternoon. So I'm really counting on a low-scoring game again. You can adjust the total to 31. You go under 31, it's 226. So you bet $100, you win 226. The other one that kind of caught my eye as far as props, and this is if you kind of want to take a shot and you want to say, wow, Roquan Smith really is my superhero and pound your chest about the Ravens defense. Baltimore shutout. Shutting out the Cleveland Browns plus 1900 was the other one. You could sprinkle a little something on that one.
All right. You know, it's funny enough. The other night I was looking at those plus 5,000 game specials, and it was plus 8,500 for the Chargers special teams to score the first touchdown. For some reason, like I just kept looking at it. I'm like, nah, that's not gonna happen. And then of course they went out there and scored the first touchdown. I'm like, oh, okay, there you go. I could have put $1 in a mid 85, whatever.
I had a bad night on Monday, but that's besides the point.
Yeah, but like I alluded to earlier, Mark Andrews anytime touchdown. I just feel like it always happens. And the last time I did this, I said 2 touchdowns, and he scored 2 touchdowns. But I'm only gonna stick with 1 just because I think it's not going to be that crazy of a game. And then I'm also going to go Odell Beckham 40+ yards. Former team, he wasn't. I don't think he was healthy the first game, so maybe a little back. Maybe a little.
We had back. There was like 6 guys out the first time, I think, right?
Yeah. Linderbaum was out. Owe was out. It
was a tough road. Anyway, just on a macro level, before we get on to the rest of the slate, I think the Ravens are getting healthy. Their injury report on Thursday was not as sparkling as it was on Wednesday, but you know they got two divisional games here, and I'm sure they're probably doing a little bit of prep for. Well, I don't know. You know, both of them are going to be tough. If you could split, you're in good shape. You could win both. You're sitting pretty. You're sitting pretty with your eyes on the number 1 seed. You got the mini bye after, so you had Cleveland on Sunday, Cincy on Thursday. You got the mini bye. Then you go to the Chargers for Sunday night, which is a winnable game, and then you got your full bye. So you could really be like king of the hill. But you got to grind these things out, and I think it's going to come down to the trenches. I think the Ravens have the better quarterback at the end of the day. So we'll see how it shakes out.
Definitely. I think if you really wanted it bad enough, you need to win these 2 games. You just got to win them. You just got to win. I just think if you really want to, be that team in the league, and it's not peaking too early, because I don't even think that they need to do what I would say is peaking for this game, which is throwing the football. And the only other take I had was, for Todd Monken and that offense, is that I would really like to see them, to your point, in a negative game script, down a couple scores. Preferably to start off like the third quarter, like them like going to halftime down 3, the other team gets 7, and then boom, start from there. See a negative game script from there, how they come out of half. I think that would be really important. But not for these games. Definitely not for these games. Not the Browns, not the Bengals. But kind of a look ahead, like a team like the Rams. I want 45 passing attempts. I really want them to throw the football and iron these kinks out. I just think that there's still a little bit to be desired there. They still have a little bit of issues with spacing and timing and all that stuff. And Kurt Warner's talked about it 50 times. But
I don't think you have to be peaking at the end of the season. I mean, you obviously have to be peaking in the postseason to get knocked TF out. But you don't have to be peaking at the end of the season. We saw with the 2012 Ravens. What we did see that season was they took down both defending conference champions, including the New England Patriots in the Torrey Smith game, and then they put it on the Giants. And I know it's a long time ago, but that's the last time the Ravens made a postseason run. So I think that's what you need to see. Anyway, I like how this team's position. They're sitting in good position across the board. They got the road victories over these Ohio teams. Now you got to get the home victory and complete that sweep. So let's move on. Personally, I have nothing to say about this Thursday night game. This is like the least excited I've been about a Thursday night game in 7 years.
I think it's a game for sick-minded football people like myself. So I think the Panthers win.
Yeah, me too.
And my bet is my lock of the week is Bryce Young over 9.5 rushing yards.
I like that one. What's the odds on that?
I think it's -1. 10. You bet.
All right, so yeah, even money, 10% juice.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Again, I have nothing to say about this game, so I'm going to move on to upset of the week. One game that I going back and forth on a couple times. The Chargers are hosting the Lions, and you and I have both been fading the Lions because we think they have problematic team construction. But and first of all, let me give you credit. You hit yours last week. The Commanders, 1 out of 5. 20% of the
I was
time.
hot to start off the season. Hold up. I was hot. So I won 5 in a row to start the season, and I just started picking the Commanders, Chargers in alternating weeks, and they kept losing.
You're 100% right 20% of the time. It's a beautiful thing. I lost mine because I took Miami in KC. I thought the rest, and I was just off on that one. Although it made it interesting. I'll go with Jacksonville hosting the Niners. Niners going to catch their 4th straight L. Speak of a team with problematic roster construction. I think they have a weak O-line, and I think they have a weak secondary, and that's a poor combination against a Jacksonville team with an underrated defense at home, catching 3 points. I'm taking the Jags. That's my upset of the week.
That I thought about that one. I really did. I was looking at them like, I mean, they traded for Chase Young, but they got no depth. They got no depth, and the depth they have at those spots suck. So I don't know what's going on with Trent Williams and Debo, and if those guys are getting healthy. But my upset of the week, to stick to the shtick, not the Commanders. I am going to alternate back to the Chargers against Detroit. There's no home field advantage for them, but I just think that game Monday, like, it wasn't pretty and all that stuff. But outside of the disgusting amount of fumbles that they had, the Chargers, like, they didn't get in their own way. Like, they just played smart. They kicked field goals. And Brandon Staley kind of had like a moment almost to me that he's like, okay, let's not be hyper aggressive and put ourselves in the crux every moment we can fucking every chance we get. Like, we're gonna put ourselves behind the 8 ball.
Right.
So hopefully he had a come to Jesus moment, and we'll see what happens. But I'm going to go with the Chargers over the Lions.
The Chargers either Bosa and Mack. They got to get Bosa and Mack going. Staley's a defensive mastermind, and he can't get 2 premier pass rushers. I like that one too. As I mentioned. So yeah, good picks. We'll see where it takes us this week. I like this time of year. The leaves are really starting to come down. My way. How about your way? I assume they are too. And rivalry game tomorrow. I'm sorry, on Saturday with a little Florida rivalry game, FSU Miami. Who you like in that one, by the way?
FSU.
Okay. If they got to get Coleman, if they get Coleman and Wilson back, they'll be in trouble.
Yeah, when I was in Pittsburgh, I was actually around the stadium for the pregame for the FSU Pittsburgh game.
Nice.
So I saw a couple Knowles fans. I hit them with a couple like that. I was representing for you guys out there.
There you go.
I was trying to make sure that they knew what was going on. So
appreciate that. We always appreciate that. Yeah, they're going to steal
another big game this weekend in college football. UNC and Duke battle the basketball schools. UNC's back in the top 25. I mean, I don't know what's going on with the quarterback for Duke, but
Tobacco Road, the Battle of Tobacco Road. Too bad tobacco's obsolete these days.
Yeah.
It'll be as I said, fun time of year. Let's keep this good vibes rolling with this Ravens team. They really seem to have that camaraderie that you don't necessarily get every year. I don't think you get that every year. And Lamar is feeling good, and so go get this dub, and let's make it happen. It's been like unfulfilled promise since they drafted Lamar, since 2019. And they have the players to fulfill the promise, and they have the coaches to fulfill the promise. And now it's just a matter of doing it.
Yep. Let's go out and do the damn thing. That's what I'm saying. Just go out and do it. So I think that about wraps us up here, Voss. Appreciate everybody for joining, listening. Please feel free to share, subscribe, like, show your grandparents, show your parents, show your kids, show your dog. I don't care.
Show your stepkids.
Okay, we're going too far with that one.
Why
But
not?
appreciate everybody for joining, and you guys have a good night.